let me capsulize everything with one word where Scott Peterson's concerned. Incredible. He has no credibility.
And his team saying, well, you know, there are all these other possibilities. There's this burned out van. We think that the burglary should have been investigated more across the street. Any of that lead you to have any questions?
There's no doubt in my mind, based on the evidence and testimony in that trial, and that dog walking and the van was covered, no doubt that Scott Peterson is guilty. Now we have another piece of evidence that they're saying he deserves another trial for. And my attitude on that is, let's see what develops. If this tape, for instance, is found to have someone's DNA on it other than Scott Peterson's, maybe there may be question. But the day that the day that Lacy's and Connor's bodies were found were the day after a very violent storm in the Bay Area. Question is, could that have been put on the body, if you will, or found on the body as a result of that storm? And, you know, so if anybody else's DNA comes up with it, then we have all this other stuff that still says you're guilty.
Well, that's right. And
but
I think that's
by God, if there's one thing he deserves.
Yeah, I think that's a critical point.
He deserves a chance to be heard.
So let me ask you, as you thought back to the case, right, and there was a lot of different evidence, was there a single piece, a few pieces of evidence that were most important to you?
No. Nothing was, you know, was more important than the other. There were some things that kind of set you back, and that was the way he acted during the entire investigation, and that covers many of those acts, you know, and the lying and the deceit. You know, that's why I said he has no credibility. But irrespective of that fact, he deserves a chance to be able to prove his innocence. But this ought to be the end of it.
Yeah.
I really don't see any reason to go any further with it.
As you know, there are some people who say, oh, he just got convicted because he had an affair with Amber Fry. And the jurors just thought, oh, he's having an affair, so he must be guilty. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is that there's probably a few jurors that were there that may have had affairs too, and I don't think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, so to speak, on a hypothetical, you know, idea that he was convicted because of any reason that wasn't thoroughly looked at. So we had an affair. God, they don't have enough prisons in the world to hold people who had affairs, and that's not illegal. That's a personal thing, and that's between somebody and their spouse or whatever. So, you know, that wasn't even something that was of interest in any of it. If Amber Fry played any important part in this decision that we came to, it was only verifying that which we already had seen and heard in evidence and testimony. And she was good enough to do that, and that's it. You know, Scott, you know, it baffles me why people would even question why he was convicted. Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah, there's that one issue, oh, the media made so much of it, and yeah, the media should have kept their nose out of it, but the media played no part in the decision. It was all testimony. It was all evidence. And people think there wasn't evidence. They weren't there. They weren't at the trial I was at.
They weren't at the trial I was at either. Mike, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.